The dragon no one wanted. The dragon did not roar. He did not fight. He did not even lift his head. He just lay there in chains, in the middle of the loud alien market, while everyone laughed at him. The market of Zareth 9 was never quiet. Giant insect traders shouted prices. Metal-skinned merchants argued over rare minerals. Robots floated above the ground carrying glowing crates. The air smelled of fuel, spices, and smoke. And in the center of it all was the small dragon. His scales were dull gray, not shining red or gold like royal dragons. One of his wings bent at a strange angle. A heavy metal collar was locked around his neck. Every time he tried to move, the chain shocked him with blue sparks. Worthless blood, one alien trader said loudly. Can't breathe fire, another laughed. Not even good for war, someone else added. A group of young aliens threw small stones at him. The dragon did not react. He only closed his eyes. To the galaxy, dragons were symbols of power. They ruled systems. They commanded fleets. Their fire could melt cities. But this one? He was nothing like the stories. A broken dragon. A mistake. A waste of space. A tall reptilian merchant stepped forward. Final price, he shouted. Cheap. Good for experiments. Maybe his bones are still useful. The crowd laughed again. That was when a human voice spoke from behind them. I'll take him. The laughter stopped for a second, then grew louder. The aliens turned and saw him. A human. Ethan Cole. He was not tall, not armored, not important looking. He wore simple mechanic clothes, stained with oil. A small data pad hung from his belt. His hands were rough from work. Humans were still new in galactic space. Most aliens saw them as emotional, fragile, and weak. Good at fixing machines, not good at power. The reptilian merchant looked down at Ethan. He hissed. You want this trash? Ethan walked closer. He looked at the dragon carefully. He noticed things others did not. The dragon's breathing was uneven. There were burn scars along his side, not from fire but from energy tools. His wing was not born bent. It was broken. Someone had hurt him. He's not trash, Ethan said quietly. The merchant smirked. He cannot fly, cannot fight, cannot breathe fire. He is useless. Ethan knelt near the dragon. The dragon opened one golden eye for a moment. It was not empty. It was tired. There was pain in it, but also something else. Fear. The dragon did not try to bite him, did not growl. He just watched. How much? Ethan asked. The merchant named a price far too high. The crowd expected Ethan to walk away. Instead, Ethan opened his device and transferred the credits. Gasps spread through the market. That's all his savings, someone whispered. A human fool, another laughed. The merchant unlocked the chains. Take your garbage, he said. The collar remained locked. Ethan looked at it. Remove it. Extra charge. Ethan clenched his jaw. He paid again. The collar unlocked with a sharp click. The dragon collapsed forward, too weak to stand. The crowd laughed once more. Careful, human, one alien said mockingly. When it dies, don't cry. Ethan ignored them. He carefully lifted part of the dragon's weight and supported him. The dragon was heavier than he looked. His body felt hot, too hot. As Ethan slowly walked away, an old alien with silver eyes stepped into his path. You don't understand what you bought, the old alien said quietly. Ethan paused. I bought someone who needed help. The old alien's eyes narrowed. No, you bought attention. From who? The old alien looked up at the sky. From those who abandoned him. Ethan followed his gaze, but the sky looked normal. Trade ships moved in and out of orbit. Nothing unusual. When he looked back, the old alien was already gone. Ethan continued walking. Back at his small repair workshop on the edge of the city, he placed the dragon on a reinforced platform. Up close, the damage was worse. Deep marks near the spine. Energy burns. Internal heat spikes. Ethan activated his scanner. The readings confused him. The dragon's energy levels were unstable. They spiked and dropped randomly, like something inside him was fighting to wake up. That's not weakness, Ethan muttered. The dragon opened his eyes again. For a moment, they locked eyes. Ethan spoke softly. You're not worthless. They just don't understand you. The dragon's tail moved slightly. Outside, The city lights flickered as night began. High above the planet, far beyond what normal scanners could detect, something massive shifted in the darkness of space. A signal had been detected. Ancient genetic code. Royal fire blood. Lost. Found. Inside a colossal dragon warship, golden scales reflected the stars. A deep voice echoed through the command chamber. Change course. Thousands of smaller ships adjusted their path instantly. Destination, Zareth 9. Back on the planet, Ethan worked late into the night, unaware. He adjusted cooling systems around the dragon's body. He reinforced the platform. He did not know that the small, broken dragon he saved was not worthless, and he did not know that by morning, the sky would not belong to the city anymore. The fire that should not exist. Ethan did not sleep that night. The dragon's body temperature kept rising. The cooling machines around him worked at full power, but the heat inside the dragon was different. It was not normal fire. It felt alive. At 3:17 a.m., every light inside the workshop suddenly exploded. Darkness filled the room. The dragon's body began to glow. Not red, not orange, gold. Bright golden cracks appeared between his dull gray scales. The air vibrated. Metal tools began to shake on the walls. Ethan was thrown backward as a wave of energy burst outward. The dragon did not scream. He rose into the air without moving his wings. Floating. Chains that were lying nearby melted into liquid metal. Ethan stared in shock. "That's impossible," he whispered. His old military scanner, still running on emergency power, began to beep rapidly. Energy reading, unknown. Classification, unregistered. Warning, Royal signature detected. Royal? Ethan stepped closer despite the heat burning his skin. The golden light focused at the dragon's chest, like a small sun trapped inside him. Then the dragon's eyes opened fully. They were no longer tired. They were ancient. For 1 second, Ethan felt like he was not looking at a young dragon. He felt like something old was looking back at him. And then, boom, the golden light shot straight into the sky like a beam. It pierced the clouds above the city. Across Zareth 9, alarms began screaming. Government towers lit up. Military satellites activated. Deep in orbit, hidden sensors inside a massive warship reacted instantly. Signal confirmed. A dragon commander announced. The chamber went silent. On a throne made of black stone and fire, the Dragon King slowly stood up. His scales were pure gold. His wings stretched across the chamber like living mountains. His eyes burned brighter than stars. After years of silence, he finally felt it. His son, alive. But the signal was unstable, wild, dangerous. The king's voice shook the warship. Prepare full escort formation. Thousands of dragon warships powered up at once. Back in the workshop, the beam of light vanished. The dragon fell back onto the platform. Everything became silent again. Smoke filled the room. Ethan coughed and ran to him. The golden cracks on the scales faded, returning to gray. But something had changed. The scanner screen still glowed faintly. Bloodline status, Royal Primordial. Classification, extinct. Extinct, Ethan said slowly. That made no sense. If this dragon was royal, why was he thrown away like trash? The dragon weakly lifted his head. For the first time, he tried to speak. Only a broken sound came out. But it was not a growl. It was a word. Kale. Ethan froze. Is that your name? He asked softly. The dragon's tail moved slightly. Kale. Outside the workshop, people began pointing at the sky. Dark shapes appeared beyond the clouds. Huge. Moving fast. City defense ships launched immediately. Public announcements echoed through the streets. Unidentified fleet entering orbit. All citizens remain indoors. Inside the government tower, alien leaders stared at the live space feed. One of them dropped his tablet. That's not a pirate fleet. he whispered. The screen zoomed in. Each ship carried ancient dragon symbols carved into their armor. Symbols no one had seen in centuries. The Dragon Throne. Panic spread through the city council. Why would the Dragon King come here? Someone asked in fear. No one answered. Back in the workshop, Ethan felt the ground shake slightly. He did not know what was happening in space. He only cared about the dragon in front of him. Kale suddenly grabbed Ethan's wrist weakly. The dragon's eyes were glowing faint gold again. Fear returned to them. Not fear of pain. Fear of something coming. And the city lights flickered again. A massive shadow passed over the workshop roof. Ethan slowly walked outside, and what he saw made his blood run cold. The sky was no longer blue. It was covered. Hundreds of enormous dragon warships filled the atmosphere. They blocked the sun. They blocked escape. In the center of the fleet, one ship was larger than the others. Much larger. Its surface shined like liquid gold. A voice echoed across the entire planet, deep and powerful. Return what belongs to the throne. Every being in the city froze. Ethan looked back inside at Kale. The small dragon trembled. The voice spoke again, louder. The royal blood has awakened. Military ships tried to form a defense line. They were destroyed in seconds. Not attacked, disabled, as if the fleet was sending a message. We are not here for war. We are here for something specific, something valuable. Government forces quickly scanned the planet for unusual energy spikes. The king who came for blood. The ground shook when the Dragon King landed. Buildings cracked. Windows shattered. Dust rose into the air as his massive wings folded slowly behind him. He was larger than anything the city had ever seen. His golden scales reflected the burning light of his fleet above. Each step he took melted the street beneath his claws. No one moved. No one breathed. The city that once laughed at a broken dragon was now silent in fear. Armed guards surrounded Ethan's workshop, but their weapons looked small, useless. The Dragon King did not look at them. His eyes were locked on one place. The workshop door. Inside, Ethan stood in front of Kale. The young dragon was shaking again. Not from weakness this time. From recognition. Ethan could feel it. You know him, Ethan whispered. Kale lowered his head. Outside, the Dragon King spoke again. His voice was not shouted. It did not need to be. It carried power that pressed against every chest in the city. I know you have him. Government officers stepped forward nervously. Great King, one of them said carefully, we did not capture any royal. The Dragon King turned his head slightly. The officer collapsed instantly, crushed by invisible pressure. I was not speaking to you. His golden eyes focused on the workshop wall. Human, he said calmly. Bring him to me. Inside, Ethan's heart pounded. He had never faced something like this. But he remembered the market, the laughter, the chains, the burns on Kale's body. He clenched his fists. No, he whispered to himself. Outside, the Dragon King took one more step forward. The workshop walls cracked. Metal bent. Screws popped out of place. Ethan walked outside slowly. The crowd gasped. A single human walking toward the most feared being in the galaxy. The king looked down at him. You are the one who touched him. It was not a question. Ethan swallowed, but did not look away. He was dying. Murmurs spread through the alien crowd. How dare a human speak like that? The Dragon King's eyes narrowed slightly. He was abandoned for a reason. Ethan's voice grew stronger. He was tortured for a reason too. Silence felt like a blade. The king's wings twitched. Energy flickered in the air. You do not understand dragon law, the king said. Maybe, Ethan replied, but I understand pain. For a moment, the fleet above grew brighter, as if reacting to the tension. Then, a scream came from inside the workshop. Kale! Ethan turned instantly. Golden light burst through the cracked roof. Stronger than before. Wild. Uncontrolled. The Dragon King's eyes widened slightly. That fire, he muttered. Inside, Kale was floating again, but this time the golden energy was darker at the edges, almost black. The air around him twisted. Machines melted instantly. Ethan rushed inside despite the heat. Kale, look at me. The young dragon's eyes were glowing fully gold now, but tears streamed down his face. He was not attacking. He was in pain. Outside, the Dragon King felt it clearly now. This was not normal royal fire. This was something older, something forbidden. The council had been right to fear it, but they were wrong to throw him away. The king suddenly spread his wings wide and leaped forward, breaking through the workshop roof in one powerful movement. The guards screamed and ran. Dust and metal rained down as the Dragon King entered the building. Inside the broken structure, father and son finally faced each other. Kale's energy lashed out violently. It struck the king directly. The crowd outside gasped, but the king did not move. He walked forward through the golden storm, each step heavy, each step painful. Kale, the king said softly. The name echoed differently this time, not as a command, as a father. Kale's energy flickered. For a moment, the black edges of the golden fire expanded, almost consuming the room. Ethan realized something terrible. If this continued, the entire city would burn. Not from attack, from overload. The Dragon King reached his son and placed his massive claw gently against Kale's head. The fire reacted violently at first. Then it hesitated. The king closed his eyes. "I searched every star for you," he said quietly. Kale's body trembled. The golden light began to slow. But then suddenly, a sharp pulse of black gold energy exploded outward. It threw even the Dragon King backward. The entire city power grid shut down instantly. Darkness swallowed everything. In the sky, several dragon warships flickered and dropped altitude slightly. Inside the silence, only one sound remained. Kale's heartbeat. Loud, heavy, unstable. The Dragon King rose slowly from the rubble. His golden scales now carried burn marks. The flame that chose a human. The city was completely dark. No lights, no sound, only the low, heavy beat of Kale's unstable heart echoing through the broken workshop. The Dragon King stood still, watching the golden black fire twist around his son like a living storm. Outside, his fleet tightened formation in the sky, and beyond them, new ships were arriving. Unknown ships, sharp, silent, watching. The king felt them. The galaxy had noticed. Inside the workshop, Ethan stepped closer to Kale again. The heat burned his skin. His clothes were half burned already. "Stay back," a dragon soldier shouted from the entrance. But Ethan did not move. Kale's eyes were wild now. The golden glow mixed with darkness, like stars drowning in space. He was not in control, and the fire was growing. The Dragon King spoke carefully. "The Primordial Flame cannot be controlled." His voice was heavy now. "Long ago, it nearly destroyed our empire." Ethan looked at him. Then why was he born with it? The king did not answer immediately, because he did not know. Suddenly, the workshop walls began to melt. The ground cracked open. A wave of black gold energy exploded outward again, stronger than before. Buildings outside collapsed. Dragon soldiers struggled to stand. Even a massive Dragon King slid backward slightly. But Ethan did not fall. The fire moved around him. Not attacking, not burning, avoiding. The Dragon King saw it clearly. The flame was reacting differently near the human. It was not random anymore. It was listening. Kale let out a broken cry. The fire flared violently toward the sky, forming the shape of massive wings made of energy. Above the planet, the unknown ships activated scanning beams. A cold mechanical voice echoed across open space. Primordial energy confirmed. Target acquisition authorized. The Dragon King's eyes widened. "No," he growled. The ancient enemy had arrived. The Void Dominion, an empire that fed on rare cosmic energies. They had hunted Primordial Flame before, and now they had found it again. Red beams of light shot down from the unknown ships. They struck the planet's shield generators. Explosions lit up the dark sky. Panic spread through the city. This was no longer a royal retrieval. This was invasion. Inside the workshop, Kale's fire grew unstable again, reacting to the attack. The Dragon King roared for the first time. It shook the atmosphere. His fleet moved instantly, engaging the void ships above. Space filled with fire and plasma. The war had begun, but on the ground, the real danger remained. Kale's power was feeding on fear. feeding on chaos. If he fully awakened now, he would not survive it, and neither would the planet. The Dragon King turned to Ethan. There is only one way. Ethan looked up. What? The flame has chosen you. Ethan stared at him in disbelief. I'm human. Yes, the king said, and it listens to you. Another explosion shook the city. Debris fell from the sky. Void drones began descending toward the workshop location. They were coming directly for Kale. Ethan looked at the trembling dragon. He remembered the market, the chains, the fear in his eyes. He stepped forward again. The heat felt like standing inside the sun. Kale, he said firmly. The dragon's wild eyes focused slightly. Ethan placed his burned hand on Kale's glowing chest. Dragon soldiers shouted in shock. The Dragon King did not move. He watched. Golden black energy rushed up Ethan's arm instantly. Pain exploded through his body. His veins lit up like cracks of light. But he did not pull away. You're not alone, Ethan said through clenched teeth. The flame pulsed violently. Then, something changed. The fire began flowing differently, not exploding outward, flowing inward, toward Ethan. The primordial flame wrapped around both of them like a shield. Void drones fired energy blasts into the building. The blast hit the golden black shield and dissolved into nothing. The Dragon King stepped back slowly. He had never seen this in all his centuries. A human sharing primordial flame, not controlling it, balancing it. Kale's breathing began to steady. The black edges of the fire shrank. Golden light became brighter, cleaner. Outside, the dragon fleet pushed the void ships back slightly. But more enemy ships were entering the system. This was only the beginning. Inside the glowing shield, when the sky began to break. The sky was no longer a sky. It was fire. Dragon warships clashed with the dark metal fleet of the Void Dominion. Golden flames cut through space. Red beams answer back. Explosions lit the clouds like broken stars. But above all of it, one massive Void warship stood still, silent, charging. Its core glowed deep red. A planet killer weapon. Target locked. Zareth 9. Inside the broken workshop, Ethan slowly stood up. His body felt weak, but something inside him felt different now. Warmer, stronger. Kale stood beside him. His scales were no longer dull gray. Thin golden lines now moved slowly across them, like light flowing under his skin. The primordial flame was quiet, but not gone. The Dragon King looked toward the sky and felt the weapon charging. They mean to erase this world, he said. Can your fleet stop it? Ethan asked. The king's jaw tightened. No, the Void warship was too far, too shielded, too powerful, and it was not targeting dragons. It was targeting the flame. If the planet died, the primordial flame would be destroyed with it. Outside, Void drones broke through the defensive line and descended toward the city again. Dragon soldiers engaged them in the streets. The war had reached the ground. Kale suddenly lifted his head. His eyes glowed softly. He could feel the weapon above, and something inside him responded. The primordial flame began to pulse again, but this time it was not wild. It was focused. Ethan felt it too, like a second heartbeat inside his chest. The Dragon King stepped closer. If the weapon fires, millions will die. Then we stop it, Ethan said. The king looked at him carefully. That ship exists beyond atmosphere range. No ground weapon can reach it. Kale suddenly spread his wings. They were still damaged, still not fully healed, but golden energy began forming around them. Not normal fire. Energy wings. Half real, half flame. The Dragon King's eyes widened. He cannot fly that high yet. Kale looked at Ethan. Not scared. Determined. Ethan understood immediately. You're thinking of going up there, Ethan whispered. Kale took one step forward. The ground cracked under his claws. The primordial flame flared gently around both of them. The Dragon King realized something dangerous. The bond, he said quietly. It allows shared balance. Ethan looked at him. What does that mean? It means if he rises, you must rise with him. Silence. The war outside grew louder. The red glow in the sky grew brighter. The weapon was almost ready. Ethan looked at Kale again. In the market, he had seen fear in those golden eyes. Now he saw fire, courage, and something else. Trust. You won't survive the strain, the king warned. Neither will the planet, Ethan replied. For the first time, the Dragon King did not argue. Instead, he bowed his head slightly, not to a human, but to a warrior. Kale crouched low. Golden black energy exploded outward, forming massive energy wings. Ethan grabbed onto the dragon's back. The primordial flame wrapped around both of them like armor. Void drones immediately fired toward them. The energy shield deflected every shot. Dragon soldiers stopped fighting for a second, watching in shock. A human, riding a primordial dragon. Kale launched into the sky. The ground shattered under the force. They pierced through smoke and battle fire, climbing higher and higher. Dragon warships moved aside instinctively. Even they felt it, the awakening of something greater. Inside the massive void warship, alarms rang. Primordial energy approaching rapidly. Target adjusting. The red weapon core shifted direction, now aiming directly at Kale. At Ethan, a beam of red light fired. Kale roared. The primordial flame exploded outward into a spinning golden-black shield. The red beam struck it. The entire sky shook. Clouds split apart. Energy waves hit the planet's surface. Ethan felt his vision blur. The pressure was unbearable. Kale screamed in pain. The shield began cracking. The void warship increased power. Energy overload in 30 seconds. A mechanical voice announced inside their command deck. Kale's wings flickered. They were losing. Ethan held tighter. Kale, he shouted. Focus on me. The dragon's eye turned slightly toward him. The golden glow inside it stabilized. Ethan closed his eyes for 1 second. He did not know how, but he trusted the bond. The primordial flame was not about destruction. It was about balance. He placed his hand against Kale's neck. Don't fight it, he whispered. Guide it. The flame changed. It stopped pushing outward. Instead, it began spinning inward, condensing, compressing. The shield disappeared. The red beam rushed forward. But at the last second, Kale opened his mouth, not with wildfire, not with rage, but with focused primordial energy. A thin golden-black beam shot forward. Clean, sharp, controlled. It pierced directly through the center of the void weapon core. Silence. Then, the massive void warship cracked in half. The red glow died instantly. Explosions rippled across its surface. The planet-killer weapon shut down. Void ships began retreating immediately. The price of ancient fire. The war was over. But the silence after it felt heavier than the battle. Smoke still rose from parts of the city. Broken ships burned in the upper sky. Dragon fleets stayed in orbit, watching carefully for any sign of the void returning. On the ground, crowds gathered at a distance. They were no longer laughing. They were staring. At Kale. At Ethan. At the Dragon King. Kale lay still in the center of the ruined street. His breathing was slow but steady. The golden lines under his scales glowed faintly, like dying embers. Ethan knelt beside him, exhausted. His arms were burned. His clothes were torn. His hand was shaking. But he was alive. The Dragon King stood above them like a living mountain. His golden scales were damaged in many places. Black burn marks from the primordial blast still covered parts of his wings. Yet his eyes were not focused on the city. They were focused on his son. He used too much, the king said quietly. Will he survive? Ethan asked. The king did not answer immediately. Instead, he placed one massive claw gently over Kale's chest. He closed his eyes. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the king stepped back slowly. The flame is stable, he said, but it has changed. How? Ethan asked. The king looked at him deeply. It is no longer only his. Ethan felt a strange pulse inside his chest again. A faint warmth. The primordial flame had not fully left him. It had marked him. Suddenly, dragon soldiers landed nearby. They did not look proud. They looked tense. My king, one commander said urgently, the Dragon Council has arrived. The Dragon King's expression hardened instantly. From the sky, 3 enormous ancient dragons descended slowly. Their scales were darker, older, covered in ceremonial armor and ancient symbols. The High Council, They had not come to celebrate. They had come to judge. The central council dragon, massive and scarred, landed heavily. His eyes locked on Kale, then on Ethan. So, it is true, the council dragon said coldly. The primordial flame has awakened. The Dragon King did not bow. Yes. The council dragon's gaze sharpened, and it has bonded with a human. The word human sounded like an insult. Ethan stood slowly. I didn't ask for it, he said calmly. The council dragon ignored him. This is a violation of ancient law, he said to the king. The flame must remain pure. Pure. Ethan snapped. You abandoned him. Dragon soldiers shifted uncomfortably. The council dragon's eyes flashed. The prince was unstable. A threat. And now? Ethan asked. You just saved your entire fleet. Silence. The Dragon King spoke carefully. The void returned because of the flame, but they were defeated because of the bond. The council dragon growled low. That bond is the danger. The temperature in the air dropped. Even dragon soldiers stepped back. The council dragon raised his head. According to ancient law, the primordial bearer must be taken to the throne world for containment. Ethan's heart tightened. Containment. That did not sound like protection. Kale stirred slightly on the ground, as if he could hear everything. The Dragon King's wings moved slightly. No, he said. The words shook the air. Gasps spread across the dragon ranks. The king had just refused the council. The council dragon's eyes burned. You would break law for a human? The king's voice was calm. I would break law for my son. The council dragons spread their wings slightly. Energy began building around them. This was not just argument. This was near rebellion. The city below watched in fear. If dragons fought dragons here, the planet would not survive it. Ethan stepped forward again. Wait, he said. All eyes turned to him. You said the flame must be pure. Ethan continued. But what if this is its evolution? The council dragon stared at him coldly. Explain. The void came because they sensed power, Ethan said. They always hunt power, but they lost. He pointed toward Kale. Not because of destruction, because of balance. The Dragon King watched silently. Ethan continued. The flame didn't calm down when dragons attacked it. It calmed down when someone treated it like it mattered. The crowd outside listened carefully now. Even the council dragons did not interrupt. Maybe the flame isn't meant to be controlled by fear, Ethan said. Maybe it's meant to be guided. The council dragon, when a king chose the future. The sky above Zareth, 9 was finally clear. The smoke had faded. The warships were silent. The city was still standing. But nothing was the same. Dragons stood on broken streets. Aliens watched from damaged buildings. And in the center of it all stood 3 figures. The Dragon King, the Primordial Prince, and the human who changed everything. Kale looked stronger now. His wings were still healing, but golden energy moved under his scales like living light. His eyes were calm, not wild, not afraid. The primordial flame was no longer raging. It was awake. The Dragon King stepped forward slowly. Every movement carried weight, not just of power, but of decision. All dragon fleets were watching from orbit. The Dragon Council was watching. Other empires were watching. The king raised his head and spoke loudly, so the entire city and the entire fleet could hear. Today, dragons witnessed something our ancestors feared. His voice echoed through speakers and sky alike. We feared change. We feared evolution. We feared losing control. He turned his golden eyes toward Ethan. But we were wrong. The crowd held its breath. The Dragon King did something no dragon ruler had done in thousands of years. He lowered his head. He bowed, not deeply, but clearly, to a human. Shock rippled through the dragon ranks. Some soldiers stepped back. Some stared in disbelief. The king's voice became firm. This human stood in primordial flame and did not try to command it. He did not seek power. He chose protection. Silence covered the city. Ethan felt thousands of eyes on him. He was not a warrior, not a hero, just a mechanic who refused to walk away. The king turned toward his fleet. From this day forward, humanity is recognized as allied blood of the dragon throne. Gasps filled the air. Allied blood. That meant protection, trade, shared knowledge, shared power. The galaxy would never see humans as weak again. But the moment did not end there. Suddenly, a sharp pulse ran through Kale's body. The golden lines on his scales brightened. The sky flickered. Ethan felt the warmth inside his chest again, stronger this time. The primordial flame was reacting, not in anger, in warning. The Dragon King sensed it too. He looked toward deep space, far beyond the orbit of Zareth 9. His expression darkened. "They are not retreating," he said quietly. High above, a long-range dragon scout transmitted urgent data. The Void Dominion was gathering forces, not just fleets, armadas, and they were not alone. Other empires had begun moving. They had seen the battle. They had seen the flame, and they wanted it. The Dragon King's eyes returned to Kale. "The galaxy will come for you." Kale stood taller, not with fear, with fire. Ethan placed a hand gently on his neck. "Then we don't wait for them," Ethan said calmly. The king studied him carefully. "You speak boldly for someone who has laughed at yesterday." Ethan gave a small smile. "They can laugh again later." For the first time, the Dragon King gave a low, deep sound that almost sounded like amusement. Then his voice grew serious again. The primordial flame was once a weapon of destruction. He looked at Kale. Now it has become something else. He looked at Ethan. A bridge. The wind moved softly across the ruined street. Dragon soldiers lowered their weapons. Alien citizens slowly stepped closer. Fear was still there, but something new was rising. Hope. Kale suddenly stepped forward into the open center of the street. He spread his wings. Golden energy formed around them, but it was stable, controlled. He lifted into the air slowly, not with chaos, with balance. The entire city watched as the young dragon rose into the sky. He did not roar. He did not burn. He simply shined, a symbol. The Dragon King lifted into the air as well, joining his son. Their silhouettes crossed the sun. Old power and new power side by side. Ethan watched from below. He was still just a human mechanic. But now, he carried something ancient inside him. Not control, not dominance, responsibility. Moments later, Kale descended back down. He walked to Ethan again. The bond was unspoken, but clear. Two worlds, one flame. The Dragon King landed heavily behind them. "The throne world will need rebuilding," he said. "The council will resist." Ethan nodded. "Then we change it,"